Hello there, and welcome to Zero XP. We are a show that celebrates the fandom of video games with a focus on one game series in particular, Fable. We strive to bring you several episodes a month discussing a variety of game-related topics spanning recent game news and events to reflection and speculation concerning past, present, and future video game generations. I'm John, and I'm sitting here with my co-host, who is the unstoppable force behind our show, Patrick.
Hello.
You can find an enhanced video version of our show by searching for us on Zero XP Webcast on YouTube.
Please like, subscribe, and comment. I reply to all of them.
You can also get each episode in podcast form across all major podcast platforms. If we're not on the platform of your choice, please let us know. If you'd like to contact us directly, you can by emailing us at zeroxppodcast@gmail.com or by following us on Twitter at zeroxpwebcast. On this week's show, we're going to be discussing the new lead writer for Playground's Fable, what we're doing with our holiday gaming, and Fable the Lost Chapters, Maze. Was he a hero or a villain? Alright, so we're back at it. Our story begins with, we missed a week of recording because it snowed.
We really missed a few weeks because you had a cold, and then I had a cold, and then it snowed.
Yeah, but I think we only missed the 1 week because of the cold, and we were just making sure it wasn't a COVID-related cold.
Yeah.
But we're back at it now, and weirdly enough, we're going to record, and then we'll have a bonus show dedicated coming up to kind of what we want the Fable map to be for Playground's Fable.
Yep.
And then we might take a couple weeks off for the holiday so we can spend some time with our families. We feel like that's important for us as well as you at home.
Watch them drop an announcement.
Probably. I don't know. During
They
Christmas?
won't.
Yeah,
but I'm
no.
just saying, if we decide to take a break,
Yeah.
they're gonna be like, "Hey, we're gonna show off the world or something."
Yeah, that would be our luck. But worst case,
I would take it.
I mean, I think we could just pivot. We'd be okay.
Yeah.
But so you know what? I think I know I announced the order that we were gonna do things, but real quick because I don't think it's gonna be a very long discussion. Let's talk about holiday games. Is there anything that you're playing? On any of your break?
Well, I haven't had a break yet, but I'm hoping
it's upcoming.
Yeah, upcoming break. I'd like to get back into Jedi Fallen Order. I started it a bit. It was entertaining, but I work a job that I've been doing a lot of overtime, so there just hasn't been time for games.
I get that.
I'm pretty sure I'm getting Watch Dogs for Christmas, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Nice. I've been playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, and I had, because there was one of those buy two, get one free, I went in with a couple buddies to buy a different game or whatever, and I wound up with Cyberpunk as well. And I'm not going to get into that if you want to diverge into that whole saga. There's plenty of podcasts, news articles, game-related articles about that whole debacle. But long story short, I'm waiting until that thing is patched into a new game, basically. Yeah. But Valhalla's...
Well, especially when you hear about how good the PC version is.
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't wait, because apparently there is a high-quality game to be had there.
Sure, yeah. I think IGN had put it that the reviewer who did the base model games was like, it's my game of the year on PC, but they gave it a 4 out of 10 on base model consoles. Which, I mean, I've got the Xbox Series X, so I'm kind of in a weird in-between state. But I figured I'll just wait until they do the next-gen patch, take full advantage of the hardware. But what I was going to say is Valhalla's been great. Given it was also not without its fair share of glitches. I had kind of a 2-hour span where it was like I was getting quite a few glitches, and then I haven't had that many since.
That's good.
If they have happened, they're like little ones that all games have.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying that. That's probably going to be my primary focus. I also really want to get into Planet Coaster.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for theme park sims.
Oh, we both grew up on theme park.
Yeah. So that's the other one I'm kind of eyeballing. And then, I mean, Game Pass has just been loading things up. There's, Dragon Quest, which I'm sure I won't have time to touch yet. And Control is another one that
I actually started that one.
That's kind of maybe a good segue into our next topic. Control is one that I thought looked intriguing when it came out. I thought that looked like a game I would probably enjoy. I just haven't made time to play it. And I know a lot of outlets gave it last year's Game of the Year. So that's encouraging. So as I said that, I think that makes a great segue into our next topic, which is we have a new lead writer for Playground's Fable, and that's that's some pretty big news. In an article from Fraser Gilbert at PureXbox.com, he says, "It's been a while since we've heard anything about the highly anticipated new Fable game, but now former Control narrative lead Anna McGill has confirmed that she'll be the lead writer on the project from next year." In a series of messages, McGill explained that Fable holds a special place in my heart, but she wasn't sure if the project would be right for her until she learned of the team's vision, ultimately calling it a perfect fit. This is now quoting her on Twitter. It says, "Fable holds a special place in my heart. It came out the year I started in game dev, and it's the first game I played with the developer's eye. I loved understanding the how and why of my story choices and seeing the impact it had on NPCs around me. But even so, I wasn't sure this Fable was right for me. I was like, is this going to be a bunch of medieval fart jokes? But the team's story vision reassured and excited me. It's a perfect fit. I can't wait to get started." So McGill's apparently leaving a current job at Ubisoft as a lead writer on a special project, so that's kind of interesting. I'm wondering what that's going to be.
Yeah.
But she said it's been positive. She's been overwhelmed by the support that she's getting for the move to Fable, and she's getting a lot of fans' good wishes, which makes me happy because as a Fable community, it's nice for things to be
not
positive.
to be toxic in some way, because people find weird ways to be toxic.
Sure, yeah. Like if you didn't like Control, then that means the new Fable is doomed or something stupid. It's some of her past writing credits are for Dishonored. Obviously, she wrote for Control and Guild Wars. So, what's your take on this? Do you have anything, Patrick, that stands out to you?
I mean, at least in Control, since I've started playing it, it's so far, at least, it's more of a serious, but it's a very weird game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's definitely very heady, right?
Yeah, and I do like that.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I'll say, and this isn't a knock in any way, not just her, but some of the other ones have been a bit more serious, or the cast that they've been assembling, but I don't think...
Or you mean the writers team?
Yeah, because I'm blanking on the guy's name, but they got a guy from Arkham series. But at the same time, just because they haven't done a game like this, which really there is no game like Fable, doesn't mean that they can, or that they don't love it, or that it's not a passion project.
Didn't they hire somebody that had a comedic background?
Yeah, I was actually about to bring that up, which... Kim McCaskill, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I know her name is along those lines, but she has more of a comedy background. I think she wrote the most lines for the upcoming Suicide Squad game.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And that seems like it's going to be a very funny game, which is good.
I know the trailer actually made me chuckle out loud, which was good.
I like the idea of a serious story, but still... humor heavy.
Yeah, it's if you look at the pedigree of Fable in the original 3 games, the thing was there was a lot of dark qualities in those games, but the humor was always there in well-timed places. And yes, there were some fart jokes, but I'm not demonizing her for pointing that out. It's just that I hope that it doesn't lose the Monty Python-esque style of humor.
Yeah, that's one of the takeaways I had too.
Yeah,
I hope it's Fable's got to be a bit stupid and silly.
Yes,
and then when you blend that with the Hobbs are stupid and silly, but at the same time they are incredibly dark.
Oh yeah, their origin is. It's for if you haven't listened to our past shows, Hobbs are children that were abducted and turned into Hobbs by other Hobbs. So therefore, when you are just slaughtering the dozens of them, they are, essentially they're kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty messed up.
Yeah.
But they're also silly and dumb, and think that
and
even
smart
that
because
within the game, I think that origin is debated, but we have on good authority that that's exactly their origin.
Smart too.
Yeah. So, the thing is I don't take any of those quotes as anything to really be concerned about by any means, because obviously Twitter limits you to what you're putting out there as far as the character limit, but also you're not going to give away all your secrets or your views. And also, I mean, I think it's pretty established in her tweet there that they already have an idea of what they want the story to be.
Which is good to hear.
Yeah, so, I mean, a lead writer's coming in to flesh things out. But and with it being Playground, I don't worry about it too much because they are a British developer. I do hope that they keep that in mind, is that British humor needs to be a mainstay. It needs to be something that doesn't change, maybe become more, Americanized in any way or modernized in any way.
Yeah, to me, that's top of the list as far as things that if you lose it, you lose Fable.
Yeah, it's so much in the DNA and the personality of Fable to let that go would be kind of sad for me. And I'm with you. I don't think now. Do I think that it would make it a bad game if it's not in there? No, but you definitely lose some of that Fable feel if you don't have it.
Yes.
And let's be clear, there is nothing that was said that would lead us to believe that there's not going to be any. It's just the fact that she brought up fart jokes.
Yeah.
Which
I can understand that. I mean, people have different takeaways from playing games, and maybe she just wanted to make sure that they weren't going all in on that one aspect.
Like a Saints Row style humor or something like that, where it's all just juvenile or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it has a bit of that, but I would never say that was like that's nowhere close to the full focus of the story.
Right. So to sum that up, we're not saying that any of her words indicate that stuff's going away. We don't want to put words in her mouth, or I guess words in her tweet, however you want to put it. We're just saying that, we do feel like that it is, the humor is a big deal. It's a big part of it. And I'm anxious to see how it goes. I mean, Dishonored's a great game. You can't look past that. I mean, I haven't even looked at Guild Wars to tell you how long. I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not as familiar with that. I mean, it was probably mid-2000s the last time I even thought about that game. But, Dishonored's great. It's definitely got its own cult following in itself. We talked about possibly covering it at some point, but then our show ended up morphing into what it is now. Yeah. But I'm excited. I mean, it's progressing. That means the game is still evolving, still being molded. I would assume at this point that a lot of the assets are in place.
Yeah.
So now it's just kind of lining up the figures.
Fleshing out the engine and building the world.
Right.
And now they're bringing in more of the people to put it together.
Yep. So, that's good. I mean, I don't know if we'll see this next year, but, in my heart of hearts, I wouldn't mind it if it was like a spring 2022 game.
My head is still on 2023, but
we'll see. Okay. I could see it. I could see it being holiday 2022.
The studio seemed to really come into formation, even though I think last year that they had said they had only hired about half the positions of the team. We have a time frame that the studio started building around 2018.
Yes. Yeah.
So
that's when the rumors all started to circulate pretty heavily.
That would give them about 5 years, but there's a lot of other stuff you can get into that makes it a bit hard to really pinpoint a time frame on this, because someone from Turn 10 made a comment that made it sound like they were helping out with the game, the other Forza developer.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean, especially if since they're taking longer time periods, I can see where maybe some people that don't need to be full-time on the project at this point while they transition to next gen, and both games are looking like they're getting around a 4-year development at this point.
I hope so. Like, we've talked about that before. They've got enough studios now that if they were to put every team on at least a 4-year development, that they would still be able to release somewhere in the ballpark of 5 exclusives a year.
Yeah. But I mean, it seems like the Forza games are taking a long spell, so I can see where, the Forza team for Playground might be shifting some people over, and if it's possible that Turn 10 is shifting some people over to help build it out. I might be way off. It might not matter that they were half-staffed at one point.
Yeah. And I mean, my thing is I just want it to arrive when it is ready
and be a good foundation for games going forward.
Exactly, because I mean that's something to consider as well. Is if say they spend a full 5-6 years developing this Fable, and it hits, and we're looking at 8.5 to 10 scores in range or whatever. And it's everything we want it to be Fable-wise. The thing is, at that point, you have the assets, you have the world, you have so many things that realistically they could flip that around on a 2-3 years and still deliver a quality game.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, especially when you consider, I mean, that makes me a little nervous when you say 2 years, but at the same time, that, to be fair, that Fable 3 team was about 80 people, and this studio's wanting to be around 200
exactly.
people.
Not, and again, I want them to take all the time in the world to make it the game that they want it to be. I'm just saying that once the assets are built, it's a lot less time to turn around a game than it is when they were literally starting from scratch. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. I'm following her on Twitter now just to see, of course, if there's any like little blurbs or thoughts about Fable going forward. And there may or may not be, but I mean, to this new team and to Anna specifically, I mean, we wish them the best of luck because, I mean, let's face it, these are the people that are creating things that we get excited about. Yep. So, I mean, you only want to give them goodwill.
It's really good to see when they post a comment and they're like, I'm a fan of the series.
Yes, yeah. So, a lot to look forward to. All right, so next up, we're going to kind of get back into our Fable the Lost Chapters playthrough. We have already been to Bargate. We battled the Kraken, which Patrick pointed out was a pretty mean thing to do. Still a little angry about that.
Yeah.
And we're getting into a new location as well as kind of some reveals about where the game is heading. Yep. And that we're going to take a trip to the Hook Coast and Maze and probably discuss his legacy a little bit. Mm-hmm. So the mission starts where you're needing to activate an ancient Colus gate that will, quote unquote, it will only open when its hunger for the undead is satisfied. Yum.
Yeah, I mean, that one of the reasons why I noted that was it made me laugh.
Yeah, no, and that's that great Fable humor. So the Hook Coast is also where the hero of Oakvale finds Maze and kind of his twist on things that we find out Maze isn't exactly the guy that we thought that he was going to be. So after passing through a magical barrier, which the Guildmaster needed to take down through an incantation spell that he kind of dispels through, I guess, your guild seal.
Yeah.
Once we get through the barrier, we find out that Jack has actually captured Teresa and brought her to the town and is using Maze to summon the Septimal Key.
Yep.
The Septimal Key is actually, it's very important to the whole overarching story towards the end of the game because it's going to be used to open focus sites later in the game that will essentially lead them to being able to track down the Sword of Aeons, right?
Yep.
The big twist that we find out is Maze is actually helping Jack. He first attempts to gain the hero of Oakvale's trust, saying that Teresa's in danger, in which case, at that point, Jack actually attacks the hero from behind, and we find out that they're working together. So with Teresa and your hero being captured, Maze completes the ritual, they get the key, and then he attempts to take both your hero and Teresa to the Chamber of Fate, which the Chamber of Fate is, again, one of the best places in all of, Fable, which is where they give the story through the tapestries of the different events that have taken place in your life. But before Maze can do that, Teresa uses the last bit of her will energy to set the hero free. When she does this, Maze stays behind and actually ends up having to battle the hero.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when we get a little bit more of Maze's story. That's when we see what's really been motivating him the whole time. So before we get into that, let's talk about the Hook Coast a little bit. Patrick, what do you think about Hook Coast?
Hook Coast is my favorite region in the game.
Oh.
My favorite, yeah. I think I'm a sucker for snow areas, especially in the Fable universe.
So
I tend to
even
like
over
the snowy...
Snow Spire?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's where I have my house and different things.
Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's interesting it's important to note that this is really, I think, your first introduction to the Screamers.
Yes.
Which
yeah. Hook Coast almost feels a little bit more haunted than some of the areas.
Yes. Yeah, but it's still a very pretty area, I'd say.
Yeah, it definitely has a unique feel compared to a lot of the other regions. What draws you there? Is it the kind of culture that seems to be there? Is it just the fact that it's different? Is it just the snow?
I think a lot of it is the snow, I'll admit.
Okay.
But I mean, I do like the design of the town. I like that it's a bit tall, I would say.
Yes,
it's got
the
a lot
scale's
more,
a little bit bigger.
Yeah, a lot more hills than most of the other areas. It feels actually a bit like, it feels a little bit like not Whole Glade, but it's a bit prettier. I guess they're both a little bit more tall areas, but this
As
one's
in
more
they scale
snowy.
upward, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The funny thing is, I think I prefer not Whole Glade.
Really?
Yeah. Which, I mean, is fine. I mean, it's all in your opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a good parallel. And maybe a little bit of a glimpse into our psyche.
Yeah.
I hate the cold.
And I hate the rain.
I like the rain. So there you go.
I don't hate the rain.
But yeah, no, I really do. I think it's got some of the cooler maybe features of the game in the town. The pub there is definitely unique compared to the general pub look of like Bowerstone and Oakvale. I think that the lighthouse is kind of a cool feature. And the inhabitants of the town seem to be fairly unique because they all look a little bit more similar than some of the other regions, maybe because they're all in the same gene pool.
Yeah, I was about to say, I mean,
they have been cut off from everybody.
I doubt many people moved to that region except for me.
Yeah, but it's kind
I'll
of...
bring my own wife.
If that was an intention, that's kind of a cool little, detail, I guess. But... So, Patrick, you and I go back and forth, not incredibly, heated, but on our thoughts about Maze, in which he's one of your absolute favorite characters, maybe even your favorite character?
I think he's my favorite.
Okay, so this is where we find out the betrayal of Maze, and this, to me, is where we get the, weirdly enough, even though he's betraying us, the most intriguing aspect of his personality.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is where you really learn a lot about him. Because I think one thing that's interesting is you do gather, even though he's a bit tough. His personality
he's
is
gruff.
a bit tough.
He's very stern
but
with you.
I gathered, he seems like he did a lot of good in his life.
I would think so if he had elevated himself to kind of... he really is the head of the guild. Even more so over the guild master.
Yeah, and the guild master has a lot of respect for Maze.
Yes, yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to see because Maze is this great hero that's very powerful, but like the back and forth between him and Jack I find a bit humorous and sad because when Maze is trying to like explain himself and cover things up and Jack's like, hurry up, old wizard, and he's just like Jack doesn't care about Maze at all.
But I think that's where it all kind of comes into perspective. So to give a little bit of background on it, Maze's family was killed by Balverines. And Maze was essentially going to die, but Jack stepped in and saved him when he was a kid. So he was very young. And at that point, it was a life debt. It was... Maze spent pretty much the entirety of his life in servitude to Jack for saving his life in the first place. So Maze was very smart. It's not like he was just a lackey. He was somebody who, he gained power, he gained influence. But unfortunately, regardless of what he did, it was all in accordance to Jack.
Yeah.
So when the raid on Oakvale took place, Maze was there coincidentally, but not coincidentally because he was part of that raid. And this is where we're finding these things out. He found the hero of Oakvale, our hero, and thought that he might be able to use him to finally take down Jack and free himself of this bondage. But somewhere along the way, he lost faith in the hero. He decided that he wasn't going to be powerful enough to beat Jack. And he needed to come up, I guess, with a backup plan or something to kind of alleviate that. There's a lot of Maze's fingerprints all over the story. Later, we find out that Maze had looked for the Tear of Avo, but he wasn't worthy and able to get it due to his servitude of Jack. Essentially, what it boils down to is in the end, Maze wanted Jack to perish, to go away. But he wasn't strong enough to do it, and he wasn't, I would say, brave enough to do it.
I mean, self-admittedly brave enough.
Yeah. So, I mean, I wouldn't say he really finds redemption. I mean, the conclusion of the quest is you end up battling Maze, and one of the cooler boss fights of the game, because you battle him through town. It's really a show of his will and his power versus, the skills that you've learned, strangely enough, under his wing.
Very similar to the one when you graduate, except he's all in on trying to hurt you.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, it's not a spar. It's a battle to the death. In which, once it's done, he kind of relinquishes that he made a mistake, that he was sorry and he was wrong, because he really did feel that your hero could be strong enough to defeat Jack. But, that's a realization that comes a little bit too late.
I mean, I guess that's where I love him. Like, he has all this stuff going on. All of it makes sense to me. Like his mentality, he might be the most thought out character, because, I mean, man, he, like, as far as good and bad, he's all over the place, but it does all tie together and make sense.
I would say he's definitely, I mean, because we don't know what went into the building of the characters and, what made the game and what didn't. He is definitely the most, I'd say, complexly fleshed out character in the game.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
if not in the whole Fable series.
Yeah, and you could argue that, with information that came after the games, that would be Scythe or, William Black. I would say that he's probably the most fleshed out, because we have his entire lifespan that didn't end. But as far as if you're looking at it from Fable and Fable the Lost Chapters, in a time when we did not have any more information beyond, here's the games, play them and enjoy them.
Yeah.
Maze definitely... I would say it would almost
has the most.
Yeah, he definitely comes off as the most literary-esque character in the game, which makes him great, makes him good. I can see why he's your favorite. I just he makes me so mad at him.
And his death, I mean, it really sums up why he's my favorite character. After he does reveal the plan, because he does try to help you in the end. I'm not saying that redeems him. Yeah. But I don't know, he gives you something. But I love his final quote. We don't all embrace death. For some of us, the only quest is to escape death, whatever the cost. I mean, it really sums up his whole purpose in the game. I mean, if you really wanted to get into it, you could, replace death with Jack of Blades. Yeah.
As kind of the analogy of death in that scenario. He was willing to do whatever he had to do to escape him.
Yeah.
It just didn't work.
Mm-hmm. And then he just ended up embracing him in a way.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not by choice, but by, I mean, I guess it's that thing where it's, did he serve him because he saved his life? No, not necessarily. I mean, like, that's kind of where it started. But I think that he probably served him because once he was in the grips of him, he knew he couldn't get away.
Yeah.
There was no escaping death, no escaping Jack of Blades. That was just his fate, because once he outlived his use, Jack would just kill him.
Yep.
He's disposable.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of it's really sad, I think, when you look at it as a big picture.
Yeah, but it's just very intriguing when you really think about it, and I guess that's one of the things is, like, he's a character I can sit there and think about for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Like, everything he went through, why he did what he did, and most characters in Fable don't have that kind of depth.
Mainly because they didn't get the opportunity to have that kind of story fleshed out. But really, it's I can see why he would be your favorite character, because there's just a lot to unpack there. There's a lot to think about. So I think on our next gameplay show, we're going to be talking, or I guess maybe even concluding, Fable, the base game, because anything that comes after that will be from the Lost Chapters. Yeah. We're going to talk about the focus sites and our battle through those, and then our big battle with Jack in the Chamber of Fates and what that meant for some of the characters involved.
I mean, it's funny, though, hearing you say that, because based on the way we originally planned this out, I thought maybe we'd be done with Fable 2 by now.
Oh, yeah. I think I originally plotted everything out to be done in August with the entire game. But, things change, things morph, and that's where we are.
Yep.
So are you ready to close things down, Patrick?
Yep, let's end it. Before we go, we'd like to thank those who helped contribute to the show. Zero XP logo was provided by Jameson Johns. You can find him at behance.net/Jameson Johns. Zero XP theme music was provided by Odd Reference. You can find him at facebook.com/odd.reference. Additional music by Rush Shaw.
Don't forget, you can find us across all major podcast platforms, as well as the enhanced video version of each episode on YouTube by searching for Zero XP Webcast.
Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Using these features helps fellow Fable fans like yourself find our content.
And as always, we'd like to give thanks to those who have inspired us to do this show. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Damien. And thank you, Mike. And until next time, just stay safe out there. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye.
Bye, Maze.
Bye-bye.